my privilege now to invite His Excellency Sri Narasimhan to address this gathering. Sri Narasimhan.
భగవాన్ శ్రీ సత్యసాయి బాబా ఆశీర్వాదం తీసుకొని ఓం శ్రీ సాయిరామ్. నా ముందు ఉండే ఈ సాయి భక్త సామ్రాజ్యం నా కన్నుకు తెలియలేక సర్వలోకంలో ఉండే శ్రీ సాయి భక్త సామ్రాజ్యం మీ అందరకు నా వందనాలు. భగవాన్ ని నేను ఒక సూర్యుడు అని పిలిపిస్తాను. సూర్యుడికు సూర్యోస్తం లేదు, సూర్య ఉదయం లేదు. అది ఒక నిరంతరమైన ప్రకృతి. అట్లానే భగవాన్ శ్రీ సత్యసాయి కూడా ఆయనకి సూర్య ఉదయం లేదు, అస్తం లేదు. ఆయన ఒక నిరంతరమైన ఒక ప్రకృతి. సూర్యం అనేది ఒక సమయం ఒక చోట్ల ఉంటుంది, మనకందరూ సంతోషం ఇస్తున్నది. ఇంకొక సమయం ఇంకొక చోట్ల ఉంటుంది. అంతే సర్వలోకంలో సర్వ ప్రకృతిని అందరికీ సంతోషం ఇచ్చేది సూర్యుడు. అట్లా అంటే భగవాన్ శ్రీ సత్యసాయి కూడా ఈ లోకంలో ఉండే అన్ని మందులకు సంతోషించిన ఒక మహానుభావుడు ఆ శ్రీ సత్యసాయి బాబా. ఆదిత్య హృదయం పుణ్యం సర్వశత్రు వినాశనం అని చెప్తారు. భగవాన్ శ్రీ సత్యసాయి బాబాతో సంబంధం పెట్టుకుని మనందరికీ మన హితం నుంచి అన్ని శత్రు వినాశనం చేసేది ఒక శక్తి ఉన్నది ఆయనకి. మన దగ్గర ఉన్న మన మనసులో ఉన్న శత్రువులు ఎవరన్నా అనుకుంటే కామం, క్రోధం, మదం, లోభం. ఈ నాలుగును ఆయన తీయలేదు, మన మనసులోనే పెట్టున్నారు. కానీ ఎట్లా దీన్ని మేడ్ దిస్ పాజిటివ్. The same negative features which we call Chaturnyami, Kamam, Krodham, Madam, Lobham was converted into a more positive feature by Sri Satya Sai Baba. That is Kamam, where he said you must have a passion for service. That is what he said. That is how he interpreted his Kama was a passion for selfless service or seva. Krodham is angry with yourself if you are not able to achieve or do this seva for the others, a selfless seva. Madam is something where you feel happy that God has given you this opportunity to serve mankind. And Lobham is asking for more, asking God to bestow upon us His blessings for more and more such opportunities. That is how he interpreted this Kamam, Krodham, Madam, Lobham in all of us. Well, Sri Venkatraman was kind enough to prove his devotion to Sri Satya Sai Baba when he made the statement that the Bhagavan conceived this book, the Bhagavan guided this book, the Bhagavan wrote this book, the Bhagavan published this book. But I find fault with Mr. Venkatraman for only one thing, that I would like to say the Bhagavan released this book today in your midst. Bhagavan may not be in our physical presence today. You may say so, but I don't agree with you. Because Bhagavan is somebody whom you experience, you don't see. You have to experience the presence of Bhagavan and not see it. Right now, sitting here, you cannot see the sun. Can you say there is no sun? You cannot. You are experiencing the effect of sun, the impact of sun. So also, while Bhagavan may not be here with us, in our presence here today, probably is in some other part of the globe, giving that sun and that light and illumination to another group of Sai Bhakta Samrajyam. So that is the importance of Bhagavan. Though exactly a year back on this very day, at 7 a.m. when we got the message in Hyderabad, saying the light has gone out of our lives. My first reaction was, it is a wrong way, light has not gone out of our lives. Light has in fact come into our lives. Because Bhagavan's this thing was, I am shedding my form, my physical form, but my Atma I am putting into every one of you. And that is what it is. So I felt that He provided us a light, He provided His Atma into every one of us, and He did not leave us at all. He only made us stronger by putting in us this determined feature that we will abide by His direction and by His following and by His preachings to all of us. What is so unique about Baba that we keep on talking about? Some call Him Baba, namely Father. Some address Him as Swami, a master or a guru, and some address Him as Bhagavan, that is God. I would say that Swamiji was 3 in 1. He was a Baba, he was a Swami, he was a Bhagavan. He was all these 3 put together in one. As Baba, he would adopt a different approach in every role that he played, as far as little that I know of Swamiji. As a Baba, that is as a father, when we go to him as children, as his children, or Pillalu, he would say, Bangaram. He would never address you by name. He would always say, Bangaram Ra. He saw in you a golden speck. As a child, he saw that you were gold, the almighty gold. And when you looked at him as a Swami, or a master, or a guru, he would commandeer you to do a job. And that job was done. In fact, last time one of the visits when I came to Puttaparthi, when I was told about the hostel that was being built and asked them what the time limit, they said so and so many days. I said, will you complete it? He said, this is the command of the Swami. We have no choice. It will be completed by him because he has given the command, he will also complete it. We have nothing to do without. That is what I was told. And when we look at it as Bhagavan, of course we consider him as the revered avatar. As with reverence we look at him at reverence. So I see Swamiji in all the 3 avatars as a Baba, as a Swami and Bhagavan, all in different times. Actually, we are aware of this concept, Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Achiti Devo Bhava. To me, Swamiji, I think, had all these 4 filled into him. Mata Pita, of course, as I told you, when he meets, looked at us as a child and to call you Bangaram. Guru, when he commands us to do a certain job. And Atithi, why do you call him Atithi? Because Swamiji never waited for you to come to him. He would come to your doorstep. Here is a man who came to his disciples to tell them that he was there with them, in them, by them, for them. We never waited for him, for us to come to Prashanti Nilayam to pay our salutations to him. So he was an Atithi in that sense to our place. So I consider him as Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo Bhava. All the 4 manifestations in this one single person. In fact, when you look at the spread of the Sai Bhakta Samrajyam throughout the world, one can only say Swamiji was like Sahasra Shirusha Purusha, Sahasracha Sahasrapat. He was there everywhere. He was present everywhere. I do not know how can Sahasra in this sense does not mean 1,000. It is infinite is what it really means. So Sahasra here does not mean 1,000 or 100. It means infinite. And that was the true greatness of Baba. And that is why today we have Swamiji's disciples, Swamiji's followers, Swamiji's faith believers all over the world. And it is not restricted only to Prashanti Nilayam in Puttaparthi. That was the uniqueness of this great Swamiji. He was one who did not believe in one particular religion or one particular God. For him, it was Ekam Satvipra Bahuda Vadanti. You may call him Allah, you may call him Ram, you may call him Rahim, but for him, everybody was one. For him, God essentially was service, seva and love. That was God for him. Like the thing goes, Vaishnava Janato Tene Kahiye, Jo Peed Parai Jane Re. Here, when you say Vaishnava Jan is, one is God's own person. He only is God's own person who recognizes, who realizes the pain and suffering of others. And Swamiji was exactly that. He was a man who could see the pain and suffering of people all around him and run to the rescue and say, what can I do for him, with a smile. This was the true greatness of Swamiji. As put by one of my earlier speakers, he understood the fundamentals of life so well. In his view, education, healthcare, and drinking water or food or means of sustenance was the most critical element for anybody's life. If you gave anybody all these three, bhakti would automatically follow. Of the various forms of yoga, you call up bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, karma yoga. But many of us are not capable of many of these things. Swamiji, of course, was a karma yogi. For him it was karmane kya vadirastu, na paleshu cha. Action is thy duty, fruit is not thy concern. But every one of us cannot become a karma yogi. It's an extremely difficult thing. All of us are still human beings. So there is a certain attachment, there's a certain expectation, there's a certain belief in all of us. But Swamiji was above all that. That is why he was being called Bhagavan. He had become an avatar. And for him, he thought, by giving all these basic minimum, at least people will get bhakti into them, and the devotion into them, and that will make them true citizens, and their march to mukti will be much easier. So he really promoted bhakti yoga in all of us by providing these basics, namely education, healthcare, and the means of sustenance of life. How crucial it is, ladies and gentlemen, you may ask, brothers and sisters, you may ask. I mean, education today is, I think, the key to life. If you don't have proper health, there's nothing that you can do if you are going to be lying sick in hospital all the time. If you don't have the basic minimums of means of sustenance, I may give you great lectures, theoretical postulations, etc. But ultimately at the end of the day, I want that morsel of food to fill my stomach. I want that drop of water. सागर का एक बूंद मुझे चाहिए. एक बूंद इस सागर का एक बूंद ही मिल गया है तो मैं खुश हो जाता हूं. तो without that morsel of food and that boon of water, what is it that you are going to do? And that is the greatness of Swamiji, that he recognized these three essential elements and emphasized on this. And today, we have institutions which he has built up with such great care. In fact, I think I am very unpopular as far as my state is concerned. When I keep on saying this, if one Swamiji could do this, why is it that we as a government are not able to do this? This is a question that has been agitating me over the last 2 years. I keep raising this to my friend Raghuveera Reddy and to me Geeta Reddy or to anybody else, etc. How can one person lay down a timetable and build institutions of this world-class, top-of-the-shelf culture, this thing? And why is it that we can't do that? What is so great about this one Swamiji who could do this and not all of us put together? That is because here is a man who probably felt for others, who said he did not do this because he wanted to have a university named after him, Sri Satyabhama Institute of Technology. No, that was not his purpose. His purpose was service to humanity. So this is the lesson that all of us have to learn from the Swamiji. Whatever we do, let us do with this simple thought in us that we are doing this to serve humanity. This will improve the lives of our people, and our whole concept of life should be, how can I help my brethren? All of us may not be in the same position where various different people. After all, when Ram was crossing and going over to Lanka near Rameshwaram, the Vanara Sena was building a bridge for him. When the bridge was being built, huge boulders, the Vanara Sena would take it and keep going. There was a small squirrel which was nibbling in the mud. So the Vanara Sena came and said, "Oh, you little squirrel, we are carrying big boulders. What are you doing squibbling with mud? Do you think you can carry this thing?" Ram took that squirrel in his hand and smartly said, "जितना भी छोटा हो, तुम भी मेरी मदद कर सकते हो." तो हर आदमी का मदद कर सकता है. ऐसा नहीं कि आप बड़ी से बड़ी चीज धन से करोगे या तन से करोगे या मन से करोगे. But the very feeling that somebody deserves to be helped, I think is wealth for me. I may not be in a position to help many people, but if I can feel, if I can even have the sense to say that I need to help this gentleman, I think I have done a great job. And that is what Swamiji really taught us. So we don't have to say that I don't have that money, Swamiji, I don't have the time, Swamiji, I don't have the capability, Swamiji. But if you can spread this thought around all of us, there will be some people who will be able to invest on it, there will be some people who will be able to undertake this. But the thought, I think, is something which must pervade all of us. Swamiji's main decision was making every creation of God into a human being. His concept of human being was different. His concept of human being was not just create a graduate, a postgraduate, or a doctor or an engineer. That was not his concept. A human being is somebody who lives for others. And that is what Swamiji was very particular about. And this is the concept I think we need to really talk about. I'm only saying people like me can probably only talk about it. But I'm happy that I'm at least able to talk about it, because if I can talk about 100 or 1,000 people here, at least one of them probably will take up the thought and will follow it up, and I will achieve my success. I will rate it as my success. If one among the 1,000 people have taken up this thought and said that we must do something for the people. And as Swamiji rightly said, it is not only for the poor, it is for humanity as such that we need to do. We need not always think of only the poor. We can do it for all deserving persons. Anybody who is deprived, anybody who requires it, anybody who is going to feel the need for it, we need to do that. And that is what Swamiji really taught us. When we come to Prashanti Ashram, Prashanti Nilayam, here is something where I really look forward because it gives you both Prasannata and Shanti, both of which are something which people like me and many others miss in our day-to-day living. It is these few minutes or the few hours that one spent at Prashanti Nilayam. Of course, I am not as fortunate as all of you who have had the privilege of being residents of Prashanti Nilayam, the privilege of listening to Swamiji, the privilege of having the darshan of the Swamiji on a regular basis. But as and when the Bhagavan ordains that I should come here to Prashanti Nilayam, I have felt that great peace and satisfaction, and I go back charged with extra energy, with a determination that I must try and do something in my life if it is worth a life. That is how I look at it. Well, passing on to a few personal remarks. Not that I am saying this out of a sense of pride or a sense of joy or a sense of achievement. I would only like to share a few of my experiences with Swamiji. During my first visit to Prashanti Nilayam, when I rang up Mr. Chakravarti and had fixed up a date and a schedule to come to Puttaparthi to pay my obeisance to Swamiji, the previous night Mr. Chakravarti rang up and said, "Sir, Swamiji feels that the visit can be postponed." I was really, really upset. Not because I felt that I had been insulted as a governor, but I said, why is the Swamiji denying me this darshan tomorrow when everything had been fixed? I do not know. And I asked Chakravarti, why? Is there anything he is angry about? Why is he refused me this darshan? He said, sir, I have absolutely no idea. He only told me, "Ippudu undamanu governor garu, malli chustam." So what was that intent? That was a signal saying that trust, faith is the most important thing. I did not lose my trust or faith in Swamiji. I said, I will meet this Swamiji. I will definitely, come what may, I will have my day and I will get my darshan of the Swamiji. I went on and I did get it. Next time, a month later, Chakravarti said, Swamiji now feels that the governor should come. He can come. And I came here and I was seated in that corner. The Swamiji went around giving darshan to everybody. Bhajans are over, the Aarti was over. He had met various people. And thereafter he went past me and went into his chambers. I'm sure there was a shockwave which went through many of my friends here. Oh God, what happens? First time this man comes, he's refused an entry into Prashanti Nilayam. Second time he comes, he spends his whole time spending here through the bhajan. Still the Swamiji doesn't look at him and he goes away. Then he goes into the chamber, sends for me and my wife. We go there. And you will not believe, that was my first real encounter or meeting with the Bhagavan. I have only heard of his miracles, I have heard of his greatness, I have heard of his preachings. But when I saw him, tears filled my eyes. I do not know why. I have no reason to explain that. I have absolutely no reason to explain this. And because of the softness of his voice, I went as near as I could to him, almost putting my ear to his mouth, which I think I would say was the biggest privilege that anybody could get. I don't know how many of you could have probably had this privilege, and that was there for me. And the two words which still strike me, which probably acts as a guiding force for my life, and I'm trying to tell you this is not as a first person account, this is something which I feel out of my heart, and I think I have to say it in the presence of Swamiji today. He only said, నీ చేతిలో చాలా పెద్ద దాయిత్వం ఉంది. నువ్వు ఎప్పుడు కూడా ఏమి తప్పు పని చేయవు. He said, you will never do anything wrong. He said, go ahead, you have my blessings. and he placed his hand on our heads, both of us. And you do not know what it meant to me. To me today, that probably is my biggest strength. I may be doing a lot of wrongs, but I always feel, here is a Bhagavan who had told me that you will never do a wrong. So I probably feel that that is how it is destined and that is how it is happening. So I almost surrendered my deeds. Like it is being said, this is Kayena Vacha Manisendriya Buddhattvana Prakriti Savat Karomi Yatam Sakalam Parasme Shriman Narayanati Samarpayami. So I have surrendered myself. I said, okay, if I am doing something, it is being ordained by somebody else. It is not in my hands to do this job, and I am doing this. In that sense, probably I have almost turned into a sort of fatalist or somebody who has accepted anything in life coming through. But I think it was probably one of the best moments of my life, getting that blessing from Swamiji. On a second occasion, when I came to him, I had come here to seek his blessings for a very close relation of mine who had a serious health problem. We are all human beings. We come to seek. We don't give. Because I am still a basic human being, a raw human being. So you might understand why is this man talking so much. Ultimately, all that he comes here is to seek and not give. But seeking blessings is also something which has to come into your heart. Because every one of us has that aham in us. Aham brahmasmi is what we all think. But giving that aham and coming to a sage like him and saying, I seek your blessings, I think it itself God's own thing. So all that I came to him was, with folded hands, I said, Swamiji, I seek your blessings, I hope nothing will happen. This man just put his head on me and he said, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. He said, life is secure, you don't worry about that. And today that person is alive. This is something I cannot believe. Because I have gone through this. I'm sorry, I've become a little emotional, but this is a fact. That it took me a few minutes to come out, because he kept his hand on me and then kept saying it. I know many people are very angry saying that, why is this man sitting, at his feet, touching his feet and standing like that. But I just couldn't control myself that here is a man who says that the person whose health is there is somewhere else. Here is a man who does not know what it is all about. I am only seeking his blessings and his prayers. And is a man who says nothing will happen. And he gave me that life he gave to that individual, I would say. On the third occasion when I came here, I was out there sitting in that corner doing the discourse or bhajan that it was. He was sitting here on his throne. He told somebody, ask him to come forward. I do not know how he knew. I don't think he even saw me at all, but he said, ask him to come forward. So somebody came and said, Sir, Mundu Ravali. So I then moved into that corner and sat there. Then again he beckoned that man, he said, ask him to come and sit next to me. So I said, Swamiji, I can't sit next to you, I'll sit behind you. But next to you I cannot, because I don't think I'm worthy of that. I cannot, though you are on the throne, I'm on the floor. But still I said, I cannot sit next to you, and I sat behind you. I said, I do not know why is this man doing it. So this same Swamiji, who at one stage felt that I should wait for my darshan, this was the transformation that he brought in me as a great man. And that is my faith and belief in this Swamiji today. If I have come today, I have not come here as the governor of Andhra Pradesh. I have come here as somebody who has adored him, who sort of worships him, as somebody who has given me a life. I have great faith. As I told you, at least in these two personal incidents, I am seeing the impact even today. And that is what faith is built over experiences. So that's why when I said that Swamiji has to be experienced, he is not to be seen. You have to experience what Swamiji's presence means. And it is there everywhere. It may be in your house, it might be in your drawing room, it might be in your office room, it might be wherever it might be here. You don't have to necessarily come here and only then do it. Can you imagine any other place where thousands of people would come and sit in such a disciplined fashion? I have been telling my colleagues in the police force, look at this discipline. There's nobody controlling these crowds. They are going in the queue on their own. Nobody's pushing, nobody's sawing. And all of them are going. How does this happen? It is not that Swamiji has told you, you must not do this. I don't know, it comes on your own. All of you are there on the line, queues are going over miles, people are walking quietly. Many of you probably may not even get a glimpse of him. You probably just feel the fact that Swamiji is somewhere around. You go back happy saying that I have come to Prashant Nilayam today. And you go back saying, I've had a darshan of the Swamiji. Even if you have not had the darshan. That is the greatness of Swamiji. The essential listing of him was seva. The concept of seva, selfless seva for the needy, need not necessarily be for poor. If you can do that, if we can preach that, even if you can't do that, I think we would have achieved a great milestone in our lives. Our lives are not like Bhagwan's lives. Ours is not Ananta Yatra. Ours is Anta Yatra. We have an end in our Yatra, whereas he is an Ananta Yatra. His journey goes on. So in that short period that life has been given to us, it will be very useful if only we could follow Swamiji's teachings. If only we could convey his teachings to others, for people, mundane people like me who cannot probably implement or carry out the task that he would like us to do. Even if we could sort of convey this to others, we would have done a great job. To me, Swamiji represented the ultimate teaching of Asato ma Satgamaya, Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityo ma Amritangamaya. That is what Swamiji ultimate. From darkness unto light, from ignorance into knowledge, from death into immortality. That is what Swamiji ultimately represented. I know the entire Swami Bhaktas that you people are. It gives me great confidence, particularly when I address gatherings like this, because it gives me the confidence that we are on the right track. We will not lose. A day will come when we will gain. We will win the situation. It might take some time, but the very fact that if I can see thousands of people, Sai devotees here and all over the world, who have such dedication, who have such discipline, who have such commitment to seva, and to work, and to carry out his ordinance, I think this country, this globe has a great future. I would like to say first of this country. The other day, for example, when I was inaugurating the mobile hospital vans of the Satya Sai Institute in Hyderabad, I was shocked, I was struck. I mean, the type of equipment that was there, the type of doctors who were willing to, I said, who is going to man these vans? They said, the best of top of the shelf doctors. And everything there. Even the other, I was just mentioning Raghu Reddy this morning. I said, if these people can run vans in every district, if Swamiji can say that I'm going to provide drinking water for Chennai city, if Swamiji does it, if Swamiji says I'm going to provide drinking water for Anantapur district, why can't I do it? I will do it, is what I'm trying to tell this audience. I will today tell you, brothers and sisters, that this government will definitely do something for the people as ordained by Swamiji. We will carry forth Swamiji's blessings and we will carry out this thing. I would thank Swamiji for giving me this great opportunity today to be in your midst once again and to receive your blessings once again. I feel the impact, I experience your presence, and I give you my word that to the best of my ability, I will try to serve society and the people. Om Shri Sai Ram.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for a most heartwarming address on this most auspicious occasion for all of us. We pray Bhagwan that His divine effulgence should always shine on you and your family and guide you and give you the strength to implement what is in your heart.